Welcome to Unleashing Happiness. I am your host, Cecilia Hendricks, and today we're going to talk about finding magic in the everyday and the way that when you start to really focus on this magic that is all around you every single day, the more that it starts to build and you start to see more areas that things are just getting better. It's about recognizing the small wins and the ways to feel gratitude each and every day, because that is one of the biggest keys to making the most remarkable changes and improvements in your own life. So I'm really excited to get started, and I hope you are too. A couple of mornings ago, I decided that I was going to sit outside because the weather is starting to get nicer and watch the sunrise. And I cannot explain how thankful I was that I made that choice. I sat outside and it was chilly. I was wrapped up in a blanket, had my coffee with me, and I kept it wrapped up inside my blanket too because I didn't want the coffee to get cold right away. I could hear the birds in the distance chirping. I could actually hear an owl that must have been somewhere close by because he sounded pretty close by. And as the sun started to come up, the sky became the most remarkable, vibrant shades of purples and pinks. And it lasted for only maybe about 2 minutes that the sky looked like this. And then it went into its cotton candy looking color, which I also love. But it hit me in that moment that we have these small opportunities of magic in our lives that we don't often pay attention to, and that we just kind of take as if they're just so ordinary that we don't want to stop and literally smell the roses and start to pay attention to the things that are around us that are truly magical and bring up the feelings of gratitude and happiness and joy that is in your everyday. And the more that you learn how to focus on those moments and these small things of magic in your life, the more that you get them and the bigger feelings of gratitude you have very naturally without having to force it or to lean into feelings of like toxic positivity. I know that I've talked a bit on this podcast about toxic positivity, and I wanted to take a minute just to explain the way that I view toxic positivity and the ways that I feel like you can avoid falling into a trap of toxic positivity. While toxic positivity can be seen in many different communities or individuals, you do tend to see it often in the law of attraction or law of assumption community. There is a feeling that you are only allowed to be happy and only allowed to feel happy, positive emotions, and emotions are labeled as either negative or positive. And essentially, it's promoting that you're not able to feel anything but positive. It is invalidating to negative feelings. It's invalidating to struggles or concerns or traumatic events that have happened to individuals, and really promotes that you should have this face of happiness in everything that's going on, that no matter what, you should just be like, and it's fine and everything is fine and I'm just going to keep moving on. And it reminds me of the meme, if you've ever seen it, where there's like this little dog, I don't even know where it came from, but there's this little dog sitting in a kitchen that's on fire and he says, it's fine, it's fine. And that to me is like toxic positivity, where everything around you is on fire and you are trying to invalidate your feelings, or you have somebody else trying to invalidate them, telling you that you should just be positive. And while I definitely promote a positive mindset, I do not promote not allowing yourself to feel the things that you need to feel, especially when it's like areas of grief or you're having a very traumatic experience that you need to work your way through, or you're very sad over something or something has hurt your feelings. It's okay to actually feel those feelings. You don't have to deny them. When it comes to invalidating negative emotions and really even labeling your emotions as negative, I think that's when you're starting to get into a very slippery slope with some toxic positivity. So invalidating your negative emotions, making it be like you have to dismiss them or minimize those negative feelings, either whether you're doing it to yourself or you have somebody or a community that's doing it to you, where you're like, share that, hey, this really awful thing happened to me and I don't know how how to deal with it. And people tell you, just look on the bright side or just be happy. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. That is not the key. And that is not going to help you make the changes that you need to make in your life. And I did this for a very long time. When I first started learning about anything law of attraction or law of assumption based, I really thought that you had to figure out how to feel good all the time. And that is not something that I believe now. I think you are allowed to experience your human emotions, and every emotion that you have plays a part. It all teaches you something about yourself, either the love that you had for another person because you feel grief that they are gone, or the trauma that you went through trying to figure out how to feel grief for somebody who is now gone, or the anger that you feel because someone betrayed you that you thought would not betray you, and you're trying to work your way through that. Simple things, actually, I don't want to label them as simple because I don't want to invalidate the feeling, but feeling frustrated if somebody cuts you off in traffic, or if there's a white lie that's provided to you from a friend that you would not have expected one, or they shared something that you told them in confidence out with others and you're like, hey, that's not cool. Why'd you do that? You can feel those feelings. You can have those feelings. They give you a huge insight into the state that you're in and the identity that you're dwelling, and the areas that maybe your inner mind wants you to pay more attention to. If I have a reaction to something and I am curious about it and I question myself on that reaction, I can start to identify, is this an area that maybe I'm not being aligned with the type of life that I want? And so my mind, my body is now eliciting a response to make me pay attention a little bit more. So if there's a friend that you have that you're like, man, everything that they do just is driving me nuts. They're like getting on my nerves almost all the time that I'm around them. Start to ask yourself why. What is it that's actually getting on your nerves? And could it be that something subconsciously is trying to tell you this is a friendship that you need to not put quite as much energy into, or this is a friendship you need to put a little bit more energy into? You just really get more and more curious, but it's not about invalidating the negative, quote unquote, negative emotions. And I've actually stopped labeling my emotions as either positive or negative. I can definitely label them as ones that I want to continue in, right? Like I prefer to feel positive. I prefer to feel happy and joyful in feelings of gratitude. I feel better internally and externally when that's the way that I'm living my life. But that does not mean that I have to label the other ones as negative. They're all key insight into the person that I am. They all make me me, and they all provide me an area of understanding and learning about myself. And I'm never going to look at something like that as a negative thing, even if I'm severely uncomfortable with some of the feelings. But the less that I have tried to deny or suppress these quote unquote negative emotions that I have, the better that I feel, because I'm not suppressing them. I'm not invalidating myself internally by saying that I can't feel that way. I'm not invalidating the experience that I had that led me to have this feeling, because I'm allowed to have that feeling. I'm allowed to lean into the emotion that I have. Now I can make a choice how long I dwell there. I can make a choice with what I do with it. If I feel anger, I have the choice then on how I express or manage that anger. It doesn't mean that I will never ever feel angry again, but I make a choice of whether I'm going to lash out, or whether I'm going to throw something, or whether I'm going to scream, or if I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to journal, or I'm going to ask myself a bunch of internal questions to figure out why I feel the anger. What is it tied to? Is there truly something that I need to pay a little bit more attention to or not? And this is also a little bit of magic for your day. Once you unlock being able to feel what you want to feel, you no longer suppress your emotions. You no longer convince yourself that you're not allowed to feel something and that you attempt to constantly be positive. This huge weight gets lifted off your shoulders. And then the most amazing thing starts to happen. All of these things that you were blocking and preventing because you were trying so hard to force feel an emotion starts to flow into your life. And then you can start to pay attention to those small wins that are all around you. So when you start to map out a change in your life, we've talked about this here. If you're new here though, I promote that you figure out what it is that you want. Take a hard look at your life. Be honest. There's some questions that you can ask yourself. Those questions are, if you knew for a fact you only had 1 year left to live, what would you stop doing? So you figure out my time is actually finite. I know that I only have so much time left. What would I stop doing? What is not actually worth the energy that I'm giving it? What is something that is not aligned to the person that I want to be? What is something that I continue to do day after day that is not bringing me any type of joy, is not bringing me any type of feeling of gratitude, and actually leaves me feeling kind of down in the dumps or not very good about myself? Those are things that I would X off my list, and I'm not going to put the energy into them because I have so many better things left to do. And so then the other question is, okay, you know that you have this time left. What would you start doing? What are ways that you would live your life if you knew you only had so much time left? When it comes down to it, we all only have so much time. Nobody is going to live forever, not in this current life that you're in, not in this form that you're in, right? These bodies only have so much time. Now, I believe that our souls live on. I believe that there's something after this and that we actually will move on and likely live additional lives. I don't think that we only live the one that we're in now. But when you look at this one that you're in right now, what would you start doing? What are the things that you're not doing now that you would want to put your energy into and make sure that you got done? And then ask yourself, well, what's stopping you from doing that now? Why do you have to have an end date in order to live the way that you want to live? Why do you have to have an end date in order to start experiencing the parts of life that you really want to experience and all the magic that life has to offer? When you really start to look around, there is so many small miracles that happen every single day. The first being that you woke up. And it is truly remarkable to think about this. I look at how our bodies work. There are so many pieces that come together to make sure that I wake up each morning. And when I stopped to start really paying attention to the magic in my every single day, I really thought about this process of waking up and the way that my mind works. So I wake up and my brain automatically wants to go through the exact same thing that we went through yesterday and the day before and the day before that. And this is where we start to create new habits, right? We say, okay, we're awake and we're going to do ABC that we've always done. But then when you're starting to look at changing your life, you say, wait a minute, I'm actually going to switch around my morning. I'm going to start waking up a little bit different. I'm going to do something different. And this, though, is so amazing to me that you can even wake up and make that choice. That you either have the choice to fall into doing the exact same thing that you've always done or make a different one. That when I go outside, that every single morning the sun is rising. And every single day it looks different than it did the day before. And then I start to look at, because it's springtime where I am and things are starting to bloom and the trees are starting to get buds. And I even look at that and I'm like, look at this like amazing miracle. And you have the cycle of life that's starting to happen with animals all around us. And there's all these amazing small miracles that happen either for me, like, right, I woke up, my body actually worked. Or these small ones that are around me. The trees are starting to bud. The most remarkable sunrise happened. I can hear an owl in the distance, which I just find really cool. Sometimes I hear coyotes. I'm in Colorado. I've got coyotes around. I can hear them howling. And there's just these moments that I really enjoy because I've started to pay attention to them. And the more that you start to pay attention, the more that you start to see things in different areas. And I always recommend paying attention to the small wins. So when you've decided that you're going to do something different for your life and you want to live a life that's different than the one that you currently live, whether that's a complete overhaul of the life or if you're looking at small kind of pockets, right? Like when I first started this process, there was areas of my life that I absolutely loved. Like I have always truly loved being a mother. My relationship with my children has always been really fantastic. And I have always appreciated that and loved that. That was not an area of life that I needed to see like a drastic change in. I always want to improve as a mother. I always want to show up for my children more than I do or more than I have. but it wasn't an area that I felt like I needed a drastic change. But there were other areas that I was like, man, I'd like to have stronger relationships. I'd like to have a stronger and better relationship with my spouse. I'd like to have stronger relationships with my friends. I would like to have a career that I feel very fulfilled and happy in, and a culture that I enjoy going to. Those were areas of my life that I wanted to improve. I wanted to improve the physical feelings that I felt within my own body, how I looked at myself, the way that I felt, my own fitness goals, my own feelings of health. Those were things that I wanted to work on. And so when I started to pay attention to the life that I was leading, I got led to looking at law of attraction and law of assumption. I fell into finding The Secret first. That's kind of where I started. And then in a couple years, I ended up finding Neville Goddard and reading a lot of his work. And also have leaned into like Abraham Hicks, Joseph Murphy, Emmett Fox. Those are all ones that I have bits and pieces that I'll pull from, at least to have an understanding of how things work and kind of the way that I can get it to work in my life. And so when I first found those and I wanted to make the changes, I fell into the cycle of trying to force positivity. In every single thing that would happen, I would try to deny and suppress my own feelings and my own emotions. And I realized soon that that was not actually the key to me living a life that I wanted or feeling indifferent towards the things that were not going the way that I wanted to. Instead, I had to teach myself how to allow myself to feel and not invalidate myself, not put myself down for the way that I was feeling, but accept it and say, okay, let's start asking myself questions about this. And then start to decide where I would rather place my attention. And a lot of times, the way that this got easier for me was because in other areas of my life, at the moments that I had kind of my each and every day, really kind of the mundane, right? The doing the dishes, the waking up, the getting ready for work, the making sure kids get to school, the stuff that I was not paying attention to because it was not when I was doing a specific technique or a focus. When I stopped and started putting attention into spending those moments better, spending those moments paying attention to the magic that's in my every single day, even while doing the dishes, because I can habit stack and do something that I enjoy. And so when I give 100% of myself to the thing that I am doing, everything else around me is starting to fall into better place. And when I say giving 100%, I mean any task that you do, you should do well. And I know that we've probably all heard this over the course of our lives. Any task you do, you should do well. And the reason for that is because the more that you do well in that task that you don't want to do, or the mundane task that you feel like you have to do, and the more that you start to pay attention to the simplicity and the present moment of being within that task, even doing the dishes, cleaning your house, there are things that you can start to pay attention to in that. Like, I like my house being clean. So when I'm doing my dishes, if I'm feeling like I really don't want to do this, which trust me, I still have those moments of like, I don't want to do this. But when I have those moments, I remind myself every time I do something I don't want to do, I'm becoming stronger. My determination, my willpower, all of it is increasing, and it's actually really good for me, and it's really good for my brain. Then I'll remind myself, well, I do really like when it's done because I don't want to have dirty dishes cluttering up my sink. I like it when this is done. I like when I have completed something and I feel good about myself when I've done that. And there's simple magic in that moment. That is a small win that I can give myself. And the more that you pay attention to these small wins, the more they start to build in your life. So what I'm really encouraging here is that instead of only focusing on the feeling good in the moments that you are having an emotion or in a reaction that you don't want to have, is just start spending your day paying attention to the magical simplicity moments. And really, when I say that, there's these simple moments, like the sun comes up every single morning. If you're up, make a conscious effort to go out and watch the sunrise. Do it for a couple days and pay attention to the differences in it. What are the different colors that you see? How do the clouds change? What is it that you hear around you? What animals are out? What do you see? Just pay attention to that moment. How do you feel? And the more that you come into these present moments, not when you're trying to suppress or feel something different than what you're currently feeling, the more that you pay attention to those other moments become easier because you are teaching yourself how to feel a different way. You're teaching yourself how to pay attention to these really beautiful moments that you can have. And that is a natural way to increase gratitude. That's why I always encourage people work on their daily joys. And a daily joy is writing a list of very simplistic things that you enjoy doing. And some can be bigger, but I definitely recommend most of them be everyday simple things that you can do. Drinking a cup of coffee, taking a bubble bath, smelling some flowers, buying yourself some flowers from like Trader Joe's, giving somebody $1, buying somebody behind you a cup of coffee. These like small things that you can do that bring you joy. And it's all up to you on what your list is, right? Like nobody should be able to judge your list. It's only for you to say, this is what I enjoy doing. And then you make a conscious effort to spend time doing that thing. And when you're doing it, pay attention to it. Get into that present moment. And that's what I'm encouraging when you're watching the sunrise, or if you're actually washing your dishes, pay attention to the moment of what you're going to enjoy out of this. That it's that you're doing something for yourself. You're doing something for your home. You're going to feel good when it's done and your dishes are done. And then you can also habit stack. So when you take something that you have to do, like doing the dishes, and you add in something that you enjoy, either listening to some upbeat music, so you're kind of dancing while you're doing the dishes, or whether you like to listen to an audiobook or a podcast, you can put on YouTube and watch YouTube while you're doing the dishes. Those are all key ways that you can habit stack so that you can enjoy that moment more. And it's fine to habit stack and pay attention to something else because you're still in that present moment of paying attention to the thing that you're doing. So whether that's doing the dishes along with something else or making a choice that you today are going to spend time only paying attention to the fact that you're doing the dishes. But the more that you do this, the more that you're paying attention to these everyday miracles and this everyday magic that gets to be in your life, because these are things that you get to experience. And the only reason that you get to experience them is because you woke up this morning. And that is something to really and truly be thankful for. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. I hope that you pick up something from it that you can take into your day that will make a small improvement in your life. Because there truly is so much magic that goes on around us. And the more that you pay attention to it, the more that you'll actually get. And that's the thing, right? Is that we're learning here how to choose where we place our attention. Because where you place your attention is what you get. That's what the external world starts to show you. That's what your brain starts to pay attention to. Your brain's always going to want to confirm that you are correct and that the things that you're thinking about are right. And I'm going to confirm this for you by showing it to you. So the more that you focus on these simple moments and feeling good and enjoying yourself and showing up for yourself and filling your cup and just taking care of you internally and really starting to appreciate this life that you get to lead, even on the smallest of scales, the more that things will start to improve and just flow remarkably into your life. It's truly like brainwashing yourself when it comes down to it. I see that actually a lot. I'm seeing a lot more content come up lately for me that's talking about brainwashing yourself. And essentially, this is kind of a way of brainwashing yourself. But start to pay attention to those moments and allow yourself to feel the things that you need to feel, but ask yourself questions about them. Is this something that I want to feel? Do I believe this? What is triggering this for me? Why do I feel this way? And what is something that I can do now to manage this feeling? Is journaling going to help? Is going for a walk or a run going to help? Is listening to some more upbeat music going to help? Is it going to help if I just cry for a moment? I don't recommend dwelling in something and continuing to go down a spiral, but I also don't recommend suppressing it. That's why I'm trying to share ways that you can actually break the cycle that you have of a spiral. So once your mind starts going down this negative cycle, there are ways to stop that. One of my favorite ones, honestly, is to move my body physically. If I get up and remove myself from wherever I am much more likely to break whatever struggle I'm currently having. But you can figure out the ways that work for you, but without suppressing them or denying your own feelings. Don't invalidate yourself. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you have an absolutely beautiful week and an absolutely beautiful day. If you have any questions, if you're listening on YouTube, you can pop them down in the comments below. Otherwise, if you're listening on one of the podcast streaming services, definitely just go ahead and send me an email if you have questions. It's unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendricks.com. I wish you nothing but the best.